Good morning. Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're continuing our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. We're in chapter 7, and we're going to begin reading with verse 15. We'll read through verse 19 today. This is the passage that begins, "In my vain life I've seen everything." Things are promising when you begin a section like that, I guess. Chapter 7, verse 15, through verse 19. "In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evil doing. Be not overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand. For the one who fears God shall come out from both of them." This is a difficult passage to understand. What he's trying to say. The tone is not difficult. I mean, it is communicated clearly. Let us never forget that he's talking about life under the sun. He's not talking, there's no eternity factoring in here. And so in each one of these passages, the choice is not between heaven and hell, it's between life and death, or between a life well lived and a life wasted. And he feels like he's wasted his life. And then he says, this is what I've seen. I've seen everything. Meaning the thing that he's about to say next is the exception, not the rule. I've seen it all. I've even seen people in their righteousness die in their righteousness. And I've seen the wicked live a long time despite all their wickedness. So he's not establishing those two things as the rule, but as the exception to the rule, which happen frequently enough that he has taken notice of it. And then he says, and this is the difficult part, and it's difficult to translate to begin with, difficult to understand. "Do not be overly righteous. Do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself?" And so he's talking about being overly wise, destroying yourself. And he says things like that even towards the end, even all the way through, and even towards the end. He says, of the making of many books there is no end. Much learning is a weariness to the soul. And then he says, don't be overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? So clearly foolishness and wickedness leads to an untimely death. And then he says, it's good that you should take hold of this and don't hold your hand from that. Is he talking about this versus that? Or is it this and that the same thing, the thing that he just said? But then the conclusion is, the one who fears God shall come out from both of them. So the way to preserve a productive, meaningful life, despite everything he's already said, is to fear God. So the conclusion, which is going to be the conclusion of the entire book, isn't it? And he's reached this conclusion. He's come to this conclusion already. He's not through with his research, and he's not through with analyzing the data and interpreting it. But he understands this much. Fear God. The one who fears God shall come out of both of them in the end. What we don't know is what he means by being overly righteous. It could mean don't be self-righteous. It could mean don't trust in your own righteousness. In just a few verses, in verse 20, he's going to say, "There is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. There's none righteous, no, not one." So he could be meaning that. Or he could mean righteousness doesn't necessarily save you. So why would you go to the nth degree? Why not save yourself and live a little longer? Even if he is saying that, which seems counterintuitive and which seems to go against what godly people believe, what Jesus did in his life, even if he's saying that, he's describing our actions in a world in which there is no eternity. And so this entire passage, this entire book, this entire study is a great antidote to atheism. If there is no God and there is no eternity, then this is what we're left with. And this is all we've got. And really, is that what we want to accept? Because I don't think so. So anyway, it's unclear in that middle section what he's trying to say. At the beginning, he does see his own life as being vain. That he has wasted his life in pursuing this line of reasoning and trying so many things that were not productive. He says at the very beginning that the exception, not the rule, is that a wicked person prolongs his life in his evil behavior, that a righteous person shortens his life with his righteous behavior. But it does happen, and he's seen it, and he calls it vanity. But the conclusion of this paragraph is, the one who fears God shall come out from both of them. Okay, we'll begin with verse 19 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.